Your life may be controlled by people who have never carried the weight of your dreams. Every opinion you accept without questioning becomes a chain, and every moment you seek approval, you hand someone else a piece of your power. Machiavelli understood a truth that many people refuse to face. The person who lives for the judgment of others eventually becomes a servant of those who do not truly value them. You were not born to spend your existence proving your worth to everyone around you. You were born to build your own path, with your own vision and your own authority. In this video, you will discover why the opinions of others have so much power over your mind, how this weakness can be used to control you, and the Machiavellian principle that can help you reclaim your independence. Stay until the end, because one idea can completely change the way you see criticism, rejection, and your own decisions. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment which country you are watching from. Your voice matters, and this is where your transformation begins. Section 1. The prison you cannot see. How other people's opinions control your life. The greatest prison is not built with walls, iron bars, or locked doors. The most powerful prison is built inside the mind of a person who has become dependent on the approval of others. Many people believe they are free because they can choose where to go, what to buy, or what to do with their time. But deep inside, their decisions are controlled by an invisible force, the fear of being judged. Machiavelli understood human nature with brutal clarity. He knew that people are often moved less by reality and more by perception. A person who fears criticism can be controlled without force. There is no need for chains when someone willingly changes their behavior to avoid rejection. There is no need for a prison when someone has already convinced themselves that they must please everyone around them. The moment you begin living according to other people's expectations, you stop being the author of your own story. You become a character written by the opinions, fears, and desires of those around you. You start choosing a career because it impresses others, hiding your ambitions because they seem too ambitious, changing your personality because someone made you feel uncomfortable with who you are. This is one of the most subtle forms of control that exists. It does not arrive with threats. It arrives disguised as advice. It appears as concern. It comes through phrases like, "What will people think? Are you sure you want to do that? Isn't that too risky?" Many times these words are not meant to protect you. They are reflections of other people's limitations being placed on your life. Machiavelli would remind you that every person sees the world through their own interests, fears, and experiences. The person criticizing your dream may not actually be evaluating your potential. They may simply be revealing their own inability to imagine a different reality. The person who tells you to stay comfortable may be protecting their own comfort. The person who laughs at your ambition may be defending themselves from the discomfort of seeing someone attempt what they never had the courage to try. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that every opinion deserves the same importance. It does not. A person who has never built what you want to build should not have the same influence as someone who has achieved it. A person who does not understand your vision should not be allowed to destroy it. Yet millions of people give strangers, critics, and even enemies the power to define their confidence. This is where Machiavelli's thinking becomes uncomfortable. He understood that a leader cannot survive by constantly seeking approval. A person with authority cannot make every decision based on whether everyone will like them. The desire to be loved by everyone creates weakness because it makes you predictable. And when people understand that your greatest fear is rejection, they know exactly how to influence you. The world respects certainty more than desperation. People are naturally drawn to those who have a clear sense of identity. This does not mean becoming arrogant or ignoring everyone around you. It means understanding that your value cannot depend on a constant vote from other people. If your confidence rises when people praise you and collapses when they criticize you, then you are not in control of your own power. Machiavelli observed that appearances influence human behavior. People often judge what they can see, not what exists beneath the surface. This reality can be used against you when you become obsessed with creating an image that satisfies everyone. You begin performing instead of living. You become focused on looking successful instead of becoming successful. You protect an image while sacrificing your authenticity. The person who is controlled by opinions becomes trapped in a cycle. They seek approval, receive temporary validation, fear losing it, and then continue changing themselves to maintain it. They become addicted to acceptance. But acceptance gained through abandoning yourself is not true acceptance. It is a silent agreement where you trade your freedom for the comfort of being liked. The strongest individuals throughout history were not people who avoided criticism. They were people who understood that criticism was inevitable. Every person who created something meaningful faced rejection. Every person who challenged the ordinary was questioned. Every person who stood above the crowd experienced resistance from those who preferred them to remain the same. Machiavelli would not tell you to ignore the world completely. Intelligence requires observation. Wisdom requires listening. But there is a difference between listening and obeying. A powerful mind collects information from others, but makes its own decisions. A weak mind allows others to choose its direction. The opinions of others should be considered, not worshipped. Advice should be analyzed, not automatically accepted. Criticism should be examined, not immediately internalized. Your mind should be a kingdom, not a public square where anyone can enter and rearrange everything. The first step toward personal power is realizing how much influence you have given away. Many people are not defeated by enemies. They are defeated by the constant need to be understood by everyone. They waste years explaining themselves to people who already decided what they wanted to believe. They spend energy proving their choices instead of building their future. Machiavelli understood that power begins with self-awareness. Before controlling your circumstances, you must control yourself. Before leading others, you must stop being led by every external voice. The moment you stop begging for approval is the moment you begin becoming dangerous in the best possible sense. Unpredictable, independent, and impossible to manipulate. Because a person who no longer depends on the permission of others becomes extremely difficult to control. And that is the freedom Machiavelli wanted people to understand. Section 2. The hidden weapon of the powerful, controlling your need for approval. One of the greatest weaknesses a person can have is not a lack of intelligence, talent, or opportunity. It is the desperate need to be accepted by everyone around them. This need creates invisible chains because it forces people to make decisions based on fear instead of purpose. Machiavelli understood that anyone who can control your emotions can influence your actions. And one of the easiest ways to control someone is through their desire to be liked. Human beings naturally seek belonging. Throughout history, being rejected by a group could mean danger, isolation, and even survival risks. But in the modern world, this instinct has become a powerful tool that can be used against you. People fear being judged by friends, family, co-workers, and strangers they may never meet again. Because of this fear, they often abandon their own beliefs before anyone even challenges them. Machiavelli studied the behavior of people in positions of influence and noticed something important. Those who depend too much on public approval become vulnerable. A leader who needs everyone to love them will hesitate when difficult decisions must be made. A person who needs constant validation will change their personality depending on who is watching. Their identity becomes a reflection of the environment around them instead of a force that shapes the environment. This is why the need for approval is such a dangerous weakness. It makes you predictable. When people know that you cannot handle criticism, they know how to pressure you. When they know you fear rejection, they know how to make you compromise. When they know you need their acceptance, they know how to make you seek their permission. This does not always happen through malicious intentions. Sometimes people do it unconsciously, but the result is the same. Your choices are no longer completely yours. Machiavelli would argue that understanding human behavior is essential for protecting yourself. He did not view the world through the illusion that everyone acts from pure intentions. He understood that people are influenced by personal interests, emotions, fears, and desires. A wise person recognizes this reality instead of being surprised by it. Many people make the mistake of believing that being accepted by others means they are valuable. But these are two completely different things. Acceptance is external, value is internal. If you confuse the two, You give other people control over your sense of worth. Think about how many decisions are made because of fear of judgment. Someone refuses to start a business because they are afraid people will laugh if they fail. Someone avoids expressing their true opinions because they fear disagreement. Someone stays in a situation that makes them unhappy because leaving would disappoint others. These people are not always lacking courage. Often they are simply allowing external opinions to become stronger than their own desires. The most powerful shift happens when you realize that most people are not thinking about you as much as you believe. Everyone is fighting their own battles, protecting their own image, and managing their own insecurities. Yet many people spend their entire lives trying to impress an audience that is barely paying attention. This is one of the greatest illusions of human behavior. You imagine that everyone is watching, judging, and remembering your mistakes. But in reality, most people are focused on themselves. The fear of judgment is often much larger than the judgment itself. Machiavelli understood the importance of reputation, but he also understood that reputation must be managed strategically. There is a difference between caring about your image and becoming a slave to it. A person with wisdom knows that perception matters, but they do not sacrifice their principles just to maintain temporary approval. The weak person asks, "How can I make everyone accept me?" The powerful person asks, "How can I remain true to my purpose while understanding how others think?" This difference changes everything. When you stop chasing approval, you become calmer. You no longer react emotionally to every criticism. You no longer feel the need to defend every decision. You begin to understand that not every accusation deserves a response, and not every opinion deserves your attention. Machiavelli recognized that people often judge actions based on results. The world remembers achievements more than explanations. Those who criticize you today may change their opinion tomorrow when they see what you have built. This is why spending your energy trying to convince everyone is often a losing strategy. Your actions will always speak louder than your arguments. However, controlling your need for approval does not mean becoming careless or disrespectful. It means developing emotional independence. It means knowing when feedback can improve you and when criticism is simply noise. It means having the discipline to separate useful information from opinions driven by jealousy, fear, or misunderstanding. The person who cannot separate these things becomes easy to manipulate. They absorb every comment, every reaction, and every judgment until they no longer know what they truly believe. Their mind becomes crowded with voices that do not belong to them. A powerful individual creates distance between themselves and external opinions. They observe before reacting. They analyze before accepting. They decide based on principles instead of emotions. This is the foundation of personal authority. Machiavelli's lesson is not about becoming cold or disconnected from humanity. It is about understanding that freedom requires strength of mind. If you allow every person to influence your emotions, then every person has a piece of control over your life. But when you master your need for approval, something changes. Criticism loses its power. Rejection loses its ability to destroy you. Other people's opinions become information instead of commands. And that is when you stop living as a person waiting for permission and start living as a person who chooses their own direction. Section 3. The Art of Strategic Indifference. Why powerful people choose what deserves their attention. One of the most misunderstood principles of power is knowing what not to care about. Many people believe that strength comes from reacting to everything, defending themselves against every accusation, and proving their worth whenever someone questions them. But Machiavelli understood something different. A person who reacts to everything becomes controlled by everything. Your attention is one of your most valuable resources. Where you place your attention determines where your energy goes. And where your energy goes determines the direction of your life. The person who constantly looks around to see who approves, who disagrees, and who criticizes them is not moving forward. They are constantly adjusting themselves to the reactions of others. Machiavelli studied rulers, politicians, and human behavior. He understood that influence does not belong to the person who speaks the loudest. It belongs to the person who understands timing, perception, and emotional control. A powerful individual does not waste energy fighting every battle. They choose their battles carefully because they understand that unnecessary conflicts weaken their position. This is where strategic indifference becomes a powerful tool. Strategic indifference does not mean being arrogant or pretending that nothing matters. It means refusing to give emotional power to things that do not deserve it. It means understanding that every criticism does not require a response, every insult does not require revenge, and every opinion does not require your attention. Weak minds are constantly pulled in different directions by external events. A single negative comment can ruin their entire day. A small disagreement can make them question their entire identity. They allow strangers and critics to enter their emotional world and create chaos. A disciplined mind works differently. It observes without immediately reacting. It asks, does this person understand my goals? Does this opinion come from knowledge or emotion? Will responding to this make me stronger or simply drain my energy? These questions create distance between impulse and action, and that distance is where power exists. Machiavelli understood that emotions could be both a strength and a weakness. A person who cannot control their emotions becomes easy to predict. If someone knows exactly what will make you angry, insecure, or desperate, they can influence your decisions. Emotional reactions reveal your weaknesses to the world. This is why those who seek power often master the ability to remain composed. They understand that showing every feeling gives others information about them. The person who remains calm under pressure becomes difficult to manipulate because others cannot easily determine what controls them. Many people lose opportunities because they care too much about being understood. They spend countless hours explaining themselves to people who have already made their decision. They try to convince those who are committed to misunderstanding them. But the truth is that not everyone deserves an explanation. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is control. Machiavelli recognized that perception plays an important role in human relationships. When you constantly defend yourself, you may unintentionally communicate insecurity. When you constantly seek approval, you may reveal dependence. But when you remain confident and focused, people begin to recognize that your identity does not depend on their acceptance. The world often tests people who attempt to separate themselves from the crowd. When you choose a different path, some people will question you. When you grow, some people will become uncomfortable. When you stop seeking validation, some people may accuse you of changing. But not every reaction deserves your concern. Growth often requires disappointing the version of yourself that existed only to please others. It requires accepting that some people will prefer the old you because the old you was easier for them to influence. This is a difficult truth. Some people do not miss you. They miss the version of you that they could control. Machiavelli would encourage you to understand this dynamic. Human beings often resist change, especially when someone else's transformation forces them to confront their own limitations. Your confidence may expose another person's insecurity. Your ambition may remind someone of the dreams they abandoned. Your independence may challenge someone who depends on approval. Their reaction is not always about you. Sometimes it is about what your growth represents to them. This is why powerful people learn to separate themselves emotionally from unnecessary judgment. They do not allow every person's reaction to become a measurement of their success. They understand that popularity and respect are not the same thing. Popularity can disappear quickly because it depends on changing emotions. Respect is built through consistency, discipline, and results. A person who lives only to be liked becomes a prisoner of changing opinions. One day they are praised, the next day they are criticized, and their confidence rises and falls with the crowd. But a person with inner authority remains stable because their foundation is not built on external reactions. Machiavelli's lesson is simple but uncomfortable. If you want to control your life, you must first control what controls you. If other people's opinions can instantly change your mood, your decisions, and your confidence, then those opinions have power over you. But when you decide what deserves your attention, you take back control. The most dangerous person is not the one who ignores everyone. It is the person who listens carefully, understands everything, but chooses their own path without being controlled by outside voices. That person cannot be easily manipulated. That person cannot be easily distracted. That person understands that their energy is a weapon, and they refuse to waste it on battles that do not move them closer to their purpose. because true freedom begins when you stop allowing everyone else to occupy space inside your mind. Section 4. The illusion of being liked. Why seeking love from everyone creates weakness? One of the greatest traps a person can fall into is believing that being liked by everyone is the same as being respected. Many people spend their entire lives trying to become acceptable to every person they encounter. They change their opinions, hide their ambitions, soften their words, and abandon their own identity just to avoid creating discomfort. But Machiavelli understood a harsh reality about human behavior. A person who tries to satisfy everyone eventually loses control over themselves. The desire to be liked is natural. Every human being wants connection, recognition, and acceptance. The problem begins when this desire becomes stronger than your own principles. When you need everyone to approve of you, you become willing to sacrifice parts of yourself to maintain that approval. And once you start doing that, people learn that your identity can be negotiated. Machiavelli studied leaders who succeeded and those who failed. He noticed that the ones who constantly tried to please everyone often became weak because they avoided necessary decisions. They feared upsetting people so much that they stopped acting with confidence. Their desire to maintain popularity became more important than their ability to lead. The same principle applies to personal life. A person who always needs to be liked becomes afraid of honesty. They avoid difficult conversations because they fear rejection. They say yes when they want to say no. They accept disrespect because they are afraid of losing someone's approval. They tolerate situations that destroy their peace because they believe being accepted is more valuable than being authentic. But what kind of acceptance is that? If someone only appreciates you when you abandon yourself, they are not truly accepting you. They are accepting the version of you that benefits them. Machiavelli understood that people often value what they cannot easily control. A person who has no boundaries becomes predictable. A person who always agrees becomes easy to manipulate. A person who constantly seeks validation gives others the ability to influence their emotions. This does not mean you should become cruel, distant, or indifferent to everyone. It means you must understand the difference between kindness and submission. Kindness is a choice. Submission is a fear. A strong person can be generous without being controlled. They can listen without obeying. They can respect others without needing constant approval from them. This balance is what separates confidence from arrogance. Arrogance says, "I do not care about anyone." Confidence says, "I care about people, but I do not abandon myself to satisfy them." Machiavelli would recognize this as a form of internal power. A person who understands their own value does not need to constantly announce it. Their actions, discipline, and consistency communicate their strength. One of the biggest mistakes people make is confusing criticism with failure. They assume that if someone dislikes their decision, they must be wrong. But history shows the opposite. Many individuals who created meaningful change were criticized precisely because they refused to follow the expectations of their time. The crowd often rewards conformity because conformity feels safe. When someone breaks away from the familiar, they create uncertainty. And uncertainty makes people uncomfortable. This is why those who choose their own path often face resistance. The person who starts a new business may be called unrealistic. The person who changes their life may be called selfish. The person who stops accepting disrespect may be called arrogant. The person who develops confidence may be accused of becoming different. But sometimes becoming different is exactly the point. Your growth will always challenge the expectations of those who were comfortable with your limitations. Machiavelli understood that reputation is important, but he also understood that reputation should be built through strength, not desperation. If you spend your life trying to control every opinion about you, you will become exhausted because opinions are constantly changing. Today someone can admire you. Tomorrow they can criticize you. If your identity depends on their reaction, you will never experience stability. The powerful person accepts a reality that many people avoid. You cannot control what everyone thinks about you. You can control your actions. You can control your discipline. You can control your preparation. You can control your response. But you cannot control every interpretation made by every person. Once you understand this, a tremendous weight disappears. You no longer need to prove yourself constantly. You no longer need to explain every decision. You no longer need to chase people who do not recognize your value. You begin to understand that your purpose is not to convince everyone. Your purpose is to become someone you respect. Machiavelli's philosophy was never about seeking universal approval. It was about understanding reality and acting with awareness. He knew that leaders who depended entirely on being loved would eventually become vulnerable. The same applies to individuals who cannot separate their identity from other people's opinions. A person who needs everyone to like them has given everyone else authority over their emotional state. But a person who accepts that some people will misunderstand them becomes free. Freedom does not come when everyone approves of you. Freedom comes when you no longer need everyone to approve of you. Because the moment you stop chasing acceptance from every person around you, you recover something far more valuable, your own authority. Section 5. The power of being misunderstood. Why great people are often rejected. First, one of the most painful experiences in life is being misunderstood. Human beings have a deep desire to be seen, recognized, and appreciated for who they truly are. But Machiavelli understood something that can completely change the way you view rejection. Being misunderstood is not always a sign that you are wrong. Sometimes it is a sign that you are moving beyond the limits of those around you. Many people live in fear of being misunderstood because they believe their reputation depends on everyone having the correct perception of them. They spend their energy explaining their intentions, defending their choices, and trying to convince others that they are not the person people assume them to be. But this creates a dangerous weakness. When you become obsessed with controlling every opinion about you, you become trapped by other people's interpretations. You begin living for an image instead of living for your purpose. Machiavelli understood that perception is powerful, but he also understood that perception is never fully controllable. People see the world through their own experiences, beliefs, insecurities, and expectations. Two people can witness the same action and create completely different stories about what happened. This means that being misunderstood is inevitable. The question is not whether people will misunderstand you. The question is whether you will allow their misunderstanding to control your decisions. A person who depends on approval will immediately change when they face criticism. They will abandon their goals to avoid judgment. They will hide their personality to prevent conflict. They will reduce themselves to make others comfortable. But a person with inner authority understands that discomfort is sometimes the price of growth. Machiavelli studied individuals who gained influence and noticed a common pattern. Those who created something different were rarely understood at the beginning. New ideas often appear threatening before they become accepted. Different approaches often appear foolish before they become successful. The crowd usually judges based on what they already know. When something challenges their understanding, the first reaction is often rejection. This is why many people never pursue their greatest ambitions. They are not defeated by a lack of ability. They are defeated by the fear of being judged during the process. They imagine people laughing at their failures. They imagine criticism from friends. They imagine rejection from society. And because they want to avoid temporary discomfort, they choose permanent regret. Machiavelli would argue that this is a poor exchange. Temporary criticism is nothing compared to a lifetime spent wondering what could have happened if you had acted. The opinions of others can be useful, but they should never become the prison where your potential dies. One of the most important lessons in human behavior is that people often criticize what they do not understand. When someone cannot see the vision behind your actions, they judge only what is visible. They see the risk but not the preparation. They see the struggle but not the destination. They see the beginning but not the final result. This is why seeking approval too early can be dangerous. Great ideas often look strange before they become obvious. Every successful person has experienced a period where their vision was clearer to them than it was to everyone else. The difference between those who succeed and those who quit is often their relationship with doubt. Some people interpret doubt as a warning to stop. Others interpret doubt as a challenge to continue. Machiavelli understood that a person who wants to create influence must develop the ability to stand alone when necessary. This does not mean rejecting everyone or believing you are always right. It means having enough confidence in your judgment to continue when external validation has not arrived yet. The world often rewards results, not intentions. Before success, people may question you. After success, the same people may claim they always believed in you. Human opinions can change quickly because people often judge outcomes more than processes. This is why building your life around approval is dangerous. The same people who praise you today may criticize you tomorrow, and the same people who criticize you today may admire you later. If you build your identity around their reactions, you will constantly lose yourself trying to follow a moving target. Machiavelli would tell you to understand the difference between reputation and reality. Reputation is what others believe about you. Reality is who you are when nobody is watching. A person obsessed with reputation may sacrifice their character to appear successful. A person focused on reality builds strength from within. The strongest individuals are not those who are never criticized. They are those who remain focused despite criticism. They understand that every meaningful path includes resistance. Every transformation creates discomfort. Every person who becomes different must eventually face the opinions of those who preferred them unchanged. Sometimes people are not rejecting your future. They are protecting their comfort with your past. This is a difficult truth because it forces you to accept that not everyone will celebrate your evolution. Some people only support the version of you that fits their expectations. But your purpose is not to remain small enough for everyone to understand you. Your purpose is to become capable enough to achieve what you were meant to build. Machiavelli's greatest lesson about perception is that you should understand the opinions of others without becoming controlled by them. Listen, analyze, and learn, but never surrender your direction to the crowd. The person who can move forward without constant approval possesses a rare form of strength. Because when you no longer fear being misunderstood, you become free to create, to grow, and to become someone that yesterday's version of you could never imagine. And that is where true independence begins. Section 6. The Machiavellian Mindset. How to build unshakable confidence without needing approval. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many people believe confidence means being the loudest person in the room, proving superiority, or making sure everyone recognizes their importance. But Machiavelli understood a deeper form of confidence. True confidence is not about convincing others that you are powerful. It is about no longer needing others to confirm your power. A person who constantly seeks validation is constantly negotiating their own worth. They look for approval before making decisions. They search for permission before taking action. They wait for encouragement before believing in themselves. This creates a dangerous dependency because their motivation becomes controlled by external reactions. Machiavelli understood that anyone who wants influence must first have control over themselves. Before commanding a situation, you must command your own emotions. Before influencing others, you must stop being influenced by every outside voice. This is where many people fail. They want success, but they cannot handle criticism. They want freedom, but they cannot tolerate disapproval. They want to create something unique, but they still need everyone around them to agree with every decision. These contradictions prevent growth. The Machiavellian mindset begins with accepting an uncomfortable reality. You will never receive universal approval. No matter how kind you are, how successful you become, or how carefully you choose your words, there will always be people who disagree with you. The moment you accept this, you gain power. Because when you stop trying to make everyone happy, you finally have the mental space to focus on what actually matters. A person with strong internal confidence does not wake up asking, "How will people react to me today?" They ask, "What needs to be done today?" This difference separates those who follow circumstances from those who shape them. Machiavelli observed that effective leaders were not controlled by temporary emotions. They understood that decisions had consequences, and sometimes unpopular choices were necessary to achieve a greater objective. They did not confuse being liked with being respected. This principle applies to personal growth as well. Sometimes becoming the person you want to become requires disappointing people who were comfortable with who you used to be. You may need to say no when people expect you to say yes. You may need to walk away from environments that limit your potential. You may need to stop explaining your dreams to people who only see obstacles. This can feel uncomfortable because humans naturally want harmony. But harmony without authenticity becomes a quiet form of self-betrayal. Machiavelli would argue that weakness often comes from avoiding short-term discomfort while creating long-term consequences. A person who avoids one difficult conversation may create years of frustration. A person who avoids one moment of criticism may spend years living according to someone else's expectations. The powerful person understands that temporary discomfort is often the price of permanent growth. Building unshakable confidence also requires understanding the difference between ego and self-respect. Ego needs to prove itself. Self-respect does not. Ego reacts to every challenge because it feels threatened. Self-respect remains calm because it knows its own value. When someone insults a person controlled by ego, they immediately respond because they need to defend their image. But when someone attacks a person with genuine self-respect, that person can choose whether the response is even worth their energy. This is emotional control. And emotional control is one of the greatest forms of power. Machiavelli understood that people who reveal every emotion give others information they can use. A person who knows exactly what makes you insecure can influence your decisions. A person who knows exactly what you fear can control your behavior. This is why developing inner stability is essential. Your confidence cannot depend on compliments because compliments can disappear. Your confidence cannot depend on popularity because popularity changes. Your confidence must come from knowing your values, understanding your abilities, and trusting your ability to adapt. The person who trusts themselves does not need constant evidence from the outside world. They know criticism is temporary. They know failure is part of progress. They know rejection is not a final judgment. They understand that every successful person has been underestimated at some point. The difference is that they did not allow someone else's perception to become their reality. Machiavelli's philosophy teaches that perception matters, but internal control matters more. You should understand how others see you, but you should never become trapped by their vision of you. A person who lives only through external opinions becomes a reflection of the world around them. Their identity changes depending on who is watching. But a person with a strong internal foundation becomes a force of their own. They can enter environments where they are not understood and remain confident. They can receive criticism without collapsing. They can experience rejection without abandoning their mission. This is the type of confidence that cannot be easily taken away, because it is not built on applause. It is built on discipline. It is built on experience. It is built on the knowledge that your worth does not increase when people praise you and does not decrease when people criticize you. The greatest freedom comes when you realize that you do not need everyone to believe in you before you believe in yourself. Machiavelli understood that power begins internally. The person who conquers their own fear of judgment becomes difficult to manipulate. They stop seeking permission and start creating direction. And once you reach that point, other people's opinions become what they were always meant to be: information, not control. Section 7. The Psychology of Influence. How others use your need for acceptance against you. Human beings are constantly influencing each other. Every conversation, every relationship, and every social interaction contains a silent exchange of power. Machiavelli understood this better than most philosophers because he studied not only what people said, but why they acted the way they did. One of his greatest observations was that human behavior is often guided by emotions more than logic. People make decisions based on fear, desire, pride, insecurity, and the need to belong. And when someone understands these emotional weaknesses, they can influence others without using force. One of the easiest ways to influence a person is through their desire for acceptance. A person who desperately wants to be liked becomes easier to direct. They will change their opinions to avoid conflict. They will accept unfair treatment to maintain relationships. They will sacrifice their goals to avoid disappointing others. This is not because they are weak by nature. It is because they have allowed an external source to become responsible for their internal peace. Machiavelli would say that anyone who controls your emotional needs has access to your decisions. Think about how often people change their behavior because of social pressure. They buy things they do not need because they want to appear successful. They pretend to enjoy things they dislike because they want to fit in. They hide their ambitions because they fear being judged. They remain silent when they should speak because they fear losing approval. These small compromises may seem harmless, but over time they create a dangerous pattern. A person slowly moves further away from their own identity until they no longer recognize the decisions they are making. The most effective forms of control are not always obvious. The strongest influence often comes from subtle emotional pressure. Sometimes it appears as guilt. Someone makes you feel selfish for choosing yourself. They make you feel wrong for creating boundaries. They suggest that your growth is a betrayal because it no longer benefits them. Sometimes it appears as fear. They convince you that failure will destroy your reputation. They remind you of everything that could go wrong. They focus on risks while ignoring possibilities. Sometimes it appears as comparison. They make you question your progress by showing you what others are achieving. They create insecurity by making you feel behind. Machiavelli understood that a person who lacks awareness can easily become controlled by these tactics. But awareness changes everything. The moment you recognize these patterns, they lose much of their power. A person with a strong mind does not automatically accept every emotional reaction as truth. They pause and analyze. They ask whether the feeling comes from their own values or from someone else's influence. This is a skill that separates independent thinkers from followers. Independent thinkers understand that not every uncomfortable feeling is a sign that they are wrong. Sometimes discomfort is simply the result of leaving an old version of themselves behind. Machiavelli would never advise someone to ignore human nature. In fact, he believed understanding human nature was essential for survival. The mistake is not knowing that influence exists. The mistake is believing you are immune to it. Everyone is influenced by something. The question is whether you choose those influences consciously or allow others to choose them for you. Your environment shapes your beliefs. The people around you influence your standards. The information you consume affects your perception of reality. If you do not carefully choose what enters your mind, someone else will choose it for you. This is why powerful individuals protect their attention and their beliefs. They listen, but they do not absorb everything. They observe, but they do not imitate everyone. They learn from others, but they maintain control over their own direction. Machiavelli understood that power does not come from controlling every person around you. It comes from refusing to be controlled by everyone around you. Many people try to gain respect by making everyone comfortable, but respect is not built through constant agreement. Respect is built through consistency, confidence, and the ability to stand firm when necessary. A person who changes every belief to match the crowd eventually loses credibility. People may like them temporarily, but they do not truly trust them because they do not know who they are. Authenticity creates influence because people recognize stability. The person who has principles becomes predictable in the best way. Others know where they stand. They know their decisions are not controlled by temporary emotions or social pressure. This creates a powerful presence. Machiavelli understood that leaders needed the ability to make decisions even when those decisions were unpopular. The same applies to anyone who wants to build a meaningful life. There will be moments when choosing your path means disappointing others. There will be moments when protecting your future means rejecting someone's expectations. There will be moments when becoming stronger means leaving behind the approval you once depended on. These moments are not signs that you are losing people. Sometimes they are signs that you are finally gaining yourself. The greatest mistake is allowing the fear of someone's reaction to become more important than the reality of your own life. Because at the end of the day, other people experience the consequences of your choices for a moment. You experience them every single day. Your future cannot be built by someone else's permission. Machiavelli's lesson is clear. Understand influence, but do not surrender yourself to it. Learn how people think, recognize emotional manipulation, and protect your independence. Because the person who understands their own mind becomes far harder to control. And the person who cannot be controlled by external opinions gains something far more valuable than approval. They gain freedom. Section 8. The price of freedom. Why becoming yourself requires rejecting the crowd. Freedom sounds attractive, but true freedom has a price that many people are unwilling to pay. Most people want the benefits of independence without experiencing the discomfort that comes with it. They want to be unique, but they also want everyone to approve of their uniqueness. They want to follow their own path, but they want the crowd to celebrate every step they take. Machiavelli understood that these desires often conflict with each other. The moment you stop following the expectations of others, you create resistance. People become uncomfortable when someone refuses to play by the same rules they accepted. Your independence forces them to question their own choices. Your courage reminds them of the risks they avoided. Your transformation challenges the identity they created for you. This is why personal growth often creates tension. Many people believe that if someone truly cares about them, that person will always support every decision they make. But human relationships are more complicated than that. Sometimes people resist your growth not because they hate you, but because your growth changes the relationship they were comfortable with. The person who always agreed may suddenly have boundaries. The person who always stayed quiet may suddenly speak. The person who always accepted less may suddenly demand more. And when this happens, some people will question you. They may say you changed. They may say you became distant. They may say you think you are better than everyone else. But sometimes what they call arrogance is simply self-respect they were not used to seeing. Machiavelli understood that perception is shaped by familiarity. People often prefer what they understand, even when what they understand is harmful. A person may remain attached to an old version of you because that version made their life easier. But your responsibility is not to remain limited so others can remain comfortable. One of the most powerful decisions you can make is accepting that being respected is often more valuable than being constantly liked. Being liked is based on emotion. Emotions change quickly. A person can admire you today and criticize you tomorrow depending on circumstances, but respect is built differently. Respect comes from consistency, discipline, and the courage to stand by your values. Machiavelli studied power and recognized that those who depend only on affection become vulnerable. When everything depends on being loved, fear of rejection becomes stronger than commitment to purpose. This creates hesitation. A person begins asking, will they approve? Before asking, is this the right decision? They begin choosing comfort over growth. They begin protecting their image instead of building their future. The crowd can be comforting because it removes responsibility. When everyone agrees with you, you feel safe. When everyone follows the same path, you do not have to question whether the path is correct. But history shows that progress rarely comes from people who simply follow what already exists. The individuals who changed industries, created movements, and built remarkable achievements were often criticized before they were recognized. Their ideas appeared unrealistic because they were different from what people already knew. The crowd usually sees the present. Visionary people see possibilities. This difference creates conflict. Machiavelli would encourage you to understand the psychology of the crowd. People often defend the familiar because the unfamiliar creates uncertainty. When someone challenges a belief, people sometimes attack the person instead of examining the idea. This is why criticism should be analyzed carefully. Sometimes criticism contains valuable information. Sometimes it is simply resistance to change. Wisdom comes from knowing the difference. A person who ignores all criticism becomes arrogant. A person who accepts all criticism becomes powerless. The goal is balance. Listen without surrendering your judgment. This is the mindset of someone who is truly independent. They do not need to prove they are right in every conversation. They do not need to win every argument. They understand that their results will eventually reveal the truth more clearly than their explanations ever could. Machiavelli knew that actions create reputation over time. Words can create impressions, but consistent behavior creates credibility. This is why powerful individuals focus less on defending themselves and more on improving themselves. They understand that every minute spent trying to convince everyone is a minute not spent creating progress. The person who seeks approval asks, "How can I make them understand me?" The person who seeks growth asks, "How can I become better regardless of whether they understand me?" This shift changes everything, because once you stop depending on recognition, you become more focused. You become willing to take risks. You become willing to make difficult decisions. You become willing to walk alone temporarily if that is necessary to reach your destination. Machiavelli understood that leadership requires the ability to endure isolation. Anyone who creates something meaningful must eventually experience moments where others do not see the vision yet. The ability to continue during those moments is what separates ordinary intentions from extraordinary results. Freedom is not the absence of judgment. Freedom is the ability to continue despite judgment. The person who waits until everyone agrees will spend their entire life waiting. There will always be someone who doubts, someone who questions, someone who misunderstands. The question is whether their opinion deserves the power to stop you. Machiavelli's lesson is not to reject society or ignore humanity. It is to understand that your life cannot be controlled by the changing opinions of others. The crowd can offer advice. The crowd can offer perspective. The crowd can offer support. But the crowd should never own the final decision, because the moment you surrender your direction to the expectations of others, you exchange your freedom for approval. And approval is one of the most expensive things you can buy when the price is your own identity. Session 9. The final transformation, becoming someone who cannot be controlled by opinions. The greatest victory is not making everyone believe in you. The greatest victory is reaching a point where you no longer need everyone to believe in you. This is the moment when your relationship with the opinions of others completely changes. Machiavelli understood that true power begins with self-mastery. A person who cannot control their own fears, emotions, and insecurities will always be vulnerable to external influence. They may appear strong on the outside, but inside, they are constantly waiting for someone else to confirm their value. This is why the battle for independence is not fought against other people. It is fought within yourself. The hardest person to stop seeking approval from is not a stranger or a critic. It is yourself. The part of you that still wants everyone to understand your choices. The part of you that wants every effort to be recognized. The part of you that fears being rejected. Machiavelli would say that this internal conflict must be confronted because no external achievement can compensate for internal dependence. A person can gain wealth, status, recognition, and success, but if their confidence still depends on public opinion, they remain controlled. Because power is not only about what you possess, power is about what cannot be taken from you. And your inner certainty is one of the few things that belongs completely to you. Many people spend their lives trying to control how they are perceived. They carefully construct an image, monitor reactions, and adjust their behavior based on what receives approval. But this creates exhaustion because maintaining an artificial identity requires constant effort. Eventually, the person becomes trapped by the image they created. They are afraid to change because people might notice. They are afraid to fail because people might judge. They are afraid to be honest because people might disagree. But a person who accepts themselves no longer needs to perform constantly. They can improve without feeling ashamed of where they started. They can admit mistakes without feeling destroyed. They can receive criticism without allowing it to define them. This is emotional freedom. Machiavelli understood that perception matters, but he also understood that chasing perception is a dangerous game. If you spend all your energy managing what people think, you have less energy available to actually become the person you want to be. The strongest individuals are not those who have perfect reputations. They are those who have strong foundations. They know their values. They understand their goals. They accept their weaknesses. They continue improving despite criticism. This creates a form of confidence that does not need constant protection. One of the most important lessons from Machiavelli's philosophy is that you must understand human nature without becoming controlled by it. People will judge. People will compare. People will create opinions based on limited information. This is simply part of reality. The mistake is believing that reality can be avoided. A person who spends their entire life trying to avoid judgment is choosing a life of limitation. They will avoid opportunities where they might fail. They will avoid conversations where they might be challenged. They will avoid risks where they might be criticized. But growth requires exposure. You cannot become stronger while protecting yourself from every uncomfortable experience. You cannot build confidence while avoiding every possibility of rejection. You cannot discover your potential while constantly asking whether everyone approves. Machiavelli understood that those who seek influence must be willing to face uncertainty. They must act without having complete guarantees. They must make decisions knowing that some people will disagree. This is not recklessness. This is courage combined with awareness. The person who has mastered their relationship with opinions does not become someone who never listens. They become someone who knows how to filter. They recognize valuable criticism. They learn from intelligent perspectives. They accept correction when it improves them. But they refuse to surrender their identity to voices that do not understand their mission. This distinction creates extraordinary individuals. Because the world is full of people who know what they want, but are too afraid of what others will think. They have ideas they never share, projects they never start, changes they never make. Not because they lack ability, because they are waiting for permission that will never come. Machiavelli would remind you that no one builds a remarkable life by waiting for the crowd to approve first. Approval usually comes after achievement. Respect usually comes after results. Recognition usually comes after persistence. The world often celebrates the outcome while ignoring the struggle that created it. This means you must be willing to continue during the moments when nobody understands. You must be willing to work when nobody is watching. You must be willing to believe before there is evidence. This is the mindset of someone who is no longer controlled by opinions. They do not measure their value by applause. They measure their value by commitment. They do not change direction because someone doubts them. They evaluate whether the direction is aligned with their purpose. They do not need everyone to agree. They need themselves to remain committed. This is the final transformation, moving from external validation to internal authority. The world will continue to have opinions about you. Some will be positive, some will be negative, some will be accurate, some will be completely wrong. But none of them have the power you give them. Machiavelli understood that a person who controls their own mind becomes difficult to defeat. They may face obstacles, criticism, and rejection, but they are not easily manipulated because their foundation does not depend on outside approval. And once you reach this level of independence, something remarkable happens. You stop asking the world for permission to become who you are. You simply become. Because the person who is no longer a slave to opinions has achieved one of the greatest forms of power, the ability to choose their own path. Section 10. The ultimate lesson of Machiavelli. Your freedom begins when you own yourself. The final lesson is the one most people struggle to accept. Nobody can give you freedom if you have not first taken control of yourself. You can change your environment, escape criticism, find new people, and achieve success. But if your mind is still controlled by the opinions of others, you will continue carrying the same prison with you. Machiavelli understood that the greatest battles are not always fought against external enemies. The most important battles are fought within the human mind. The fear of rejection, the desire for approval, and the need to be understood can become stronger than any obstacle placed in front of you. A person who has not mastered these weaknesses will always be vulnerable. They will change when they are criticized. They will hesitate when they are questioned. They will abandon their vision when others doubt them, not because they lack potential, but because they have given other people authority over their identity. Machiavelli's greatest insight was understanding human behavior. He recognized that people are influenced by perception, emotions, and social expectations. But he also understood that the strongest individuals are those who know how to observe these forces without becoming controlled by them. This is the difference between awareness and dependence. Awareness allows you to understand the world. Dependence allows the world to control you. When you understand this difference, your entire perspective changes. You stop seeing criticism as a threat and begin seeing it as information. You stop seeing rejection as proof that you are failing and begin seeing it as a natural part of choosing your own path. You stop seeing disagreement as something that must destroy your confidence, because confidence was never supposed to come from everyone agreeing with you. Real confidence comes from knowing who you are, even when others disagree. This is the principle that separates people who create their own lives from people who simply adapt to the lives others expect them to live. Many people never discover their true potential because they are constantly trying to protect themselves from judgment. They choose the safe option because the safe option receives less criticism. They avoid standing out because standing out attracts attention. But attention is not the enemy. Losing yourself to avoid attention is the real danger. Machiavelli understood that anyone who wants to achieve something significant must accept that they will become visible. And becoming visible means becoming judged. There is no way around this. The person who creates something will be evaluated. The person who leads will be questioned. The person who changes will be misunderstood. The solution is not to disappear. The solution is to become stronger. A person who owns themselves does not spend every day trying to manage reactions. They focus on their actions. They focus on their discipline. They focus on their purpose. They understand that the opinions of others are temporary, but the consequences of their own choices are permanent. This is why living for approval is such a dangerous exchange. You sacrifice your dreams for temporary comfort. You sacrifice your authenticity for temporary acceptance. You sacrifice your future to protect yourself from temporary criticism. Machiavelli would argue that this is not a wise strategy. The person who seeks greatness must be willing to experience discomfort. They must accept that progress often feels lonely before it becomes rewarding. They must understand that people may question the journey before they recognize the destination. History has always shown this pattern. The person who creates something new is often doubted first. The person who challenges expectations is often criticized first. The person who refuses to follow the crowd is often misunderstood first. But eventually, results reveal what opinions could not see. This does not mean you should ignore everyone or believe you are always correct. That is another form of weakness disguised as confidence. A truly powerful person remains teachable. They listen, they analyze, they improve, but they maintain control over the final decision. They do not hand their identity to the crowd. They do not allow strangers to determine their value. They do not let criticism become a command. This is the balance Machiavelli would respect, understanding people without becoming controlled by people. At the beginning of this journey, the opinions of others may feel powerful. They may feel like obstacles standing between you and the life you want. But eventually, you realize something important. The opinions of others only control you when you believe they have the authority to define you. The moment you remove that authority, everything changes. You become calmer. You become more focused. You become more intentional. You stop reacting and start deciding. You stop seeking permission and start taking responsibility. You stop asking whether everyone approves and start asking whether you are living according to your own principles. That is true independence. Machiavelli's lesson was never about becoming someone who does not care about the world. It was about becoming someone who understands the world without surrendering themselves to it. The world will always have opinions. Some people will support you. Some people will doubt you. Some people will misunderstand you. But none of these things determine your destiny unless you allow them to. Your life belongs to you. Your choices belong to you. Your future belongs to you. And the moment you stop being a servant to the expectations of others, you finally become the person who has always been capable of creating your own path. Because the greatest power is not controlling others. The greatest power is controlling yourself.